operate on uplifting white people, but it operates on putting black and indigenous people down. It creates a caste system within our society where individuals with lighter complected skin have more racial equity than individuals with darker complected skin. White people operate outside of this caste system, right? In the absence of these racial barriers is white privilege. And by way of white privilege, it is inherent to our society. And all white people are inherently racist by way of the system. And you can actively be anti-racist. You can actively operate against the system, or you can actively participate in the system.
Is that why you're pro-segregation, Liv? Is that why you're pro-segregation?
Hold on. Let me question this, AV, and then I'll let you speak.
Is that why you're pro-segregation?
So let me ask questions and then we'll speak. So by inherently racist, do we mean that like people are taught these particular things in society, right? Or that like this is like something that's ingrained in society insofar as that people are socialized this way?
Yes. It's the system that governs our society.
So it's socialized in terms of like the prejudices and like the different types of hatred targeted towards people.
Yep. Implicit biases and explicit biases that we have. The way systems operate that we take as normative. For example, when we can look at medical racism, we can look at our criminal justice system and the disproportionalities that just govern that system, over policing in the black community, and how it leads to systemic failures.
Oh, see, I agree with those. My point would be is that I don't think that a fetus inside of the womb that would be white would be capable of being socialized in that way yet.
No, I don't think that. I think it is by way of the mother and medical racism and prejudice.
So it's because of the privilege in that sense. So if we're talking about it in terms of like hatred, in terms of the prejudice, that wouldn't say in that context, if that's the condition of what someone would be is racist or inherently racist, then that condition wouldn't apply to every individual who is white, as it wouldn't apply to the fetus here that is white. As again, it's some process that's meant to be like, or not meant to be understood to be socialized into people or taught.
Exactly. And so the reason I use the fetus as the example is because the fetus has no intent. Like it's not intentionally being good or bad, right? So because of the absence of that intent, I use that as an example to discuss how racism actually operates, because it removes the intent of an individual, and yet it's that privilege still exists by way of medical racism in the system.
Well, why are you for segregation, Liv?
Right.
Wait, so AV, when you're making a claim that he was saying that all white people are evil, that's not the claim that he was making, because you're equivocating between two different senses that he's just implied here about the terms racism, right? One
Parker,
implying prejudice and hatred targeted towards communities, and the other one in terms of the privileges that are acknowledged.
He's literally changing his beliefs, because he's literally told me that he believes all white people are racist, all white people are evil.
Wait,
I never said evil, but I said all white people are racist. And
and what he mean was the privilege, right? And that's true, right? There is privileges established by this, absolutely.
The only privilege there is green privilege.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. That's obviously not true, right?
Yeah, and so even if we were to look at that argument, right, and say that capitalism was the lead cause, I would just point out what caused capitalism, right? Capitalism.
You're going to say white people. There you go again.
We know it has only existed for 500 years, and it goes back to the transatlantic slave trade. Prior to that, indigenous people in Africa and indigenous people in the Americas had a more communal barter trade system, and even in Europe, it was feudal, more of a feudalist society. So modern day capitalism, as we know it, and the emergence of the free marketing literally happened.
So slavery's still not going on
black
today?
And indigenous people, the exploitation of black and indigenous people.
You didn't answer my question.
What was your question, AV?
Why are you pro-segregation, and is slavery still going on today?
Sure. Yes, segregation. Yes, slavery is still going on today by way of the 13th Amendment. And then the other piece is, segregation would be laws passed in place, right? What I am is I'm pro-black, and I think that the black community should be enfranchised. And if the black community needs to remove itself,
if someone says they're pro-white, does that mean they're racist?
So being pro-white goes back to a slogan that was coined by the Triple K. So yes, I think that with the way our society is set
so why
up,
is it okay for you to be pro-black?
Because that's a direct response to white supremacy. So
you're fighting racism with racism. Congratulations.
No.
Wait, why does pro-black mean racism?
He's literally for segregation, the separation of black and white people, because he doesn't think that they can co-live. He don't think they can cohabitate.
Wait, I have a question.
White people have ruined everything.
If you think segregation is just separation of people based upon a characteristic, well, then you believe that like sports should be segregated, right?
That's a false equivalence.
Well, because I'm showing how you're equivocating the usages of segregation, right? You're trying to equivocate the usage of segregation in terms of saying that there should be spaces for people who are black, right? So that they can be in particular spaces so that they're not impacted by people who are like being racist, comparative to like racial segregation in the South that was meant to discriminate and oppress people who are black.
That's a false equivalence because skin color.
No, yours is a false equivalence. That's what I was demonstrating.
No, because skin color has nothing to do with athletic ability. If we made sports just in general, anyone in sports can compete. Guess what? It will be male dominated.
Yeah. So guess what, right?
So again, the reason why that's a false equivalence is because skin color has nothing to do with athletic ability. And if you think it does, you're racist.
Okay. That's not the claim that I was making.
Yeah, it is. You said what? No. You said, why is there segregation based upon the sexes?
AV. What I was showing to you was that you were engaging in a false equivalency, right?
That's not a false equivalency.
Can I please finish, AV? Because I was showing that there are different notions. If you're just defining segregation in this way, well, then it seems like you don't consider all forms of segregation to be wrong.
That's not true, because if you are trying to separate people based on something trivial, like their skin color, that's not comparable to something that's not trivial, like the different athletic prowesses of the sexes. So do you think the strongest woman
Well, we can give a reason in this scenario because of oppressive attitudes, right? So this isn't meant to oppress people. This isn't meant to oppress people. I appreciate the boxing gloves. Thank you so much. Right? This isn't trivial either. I appreciate the subscription as well. Thank you.
Skin color is trivial.
Appreciate the confetti. Thank you so much. This
because
isn't just on the basis
of the person's skin color.
What you're misunderstanding is that this is not just on the basis of skin color. It's on the basis of the fact that there was it's on the basis of the fact that there was oppression and unjust treatment targeted towards a community, and then there's a community trying to get help based upon that unjust treatment.
But his end goal is to separate people based upon their race, which is trivial because our skin color doesn't fucking matter.
AV, stop baby raging and listening to what I'm saying for a second.
Ain't nobody baby raging.
You're absolutely baby raging.
You are being in bad faith on purpose.
I'm not being bad faith.
Okay, so tell me what is the difference between a white and a black person, and tell me what is the difference between a male and a female. Because that's why we have segregation when it comes to sports and not based upon skin color.
I can answer that real quick. So the idea of white and black don't exist except in the confines of a racial caste system. The idea of white is the absence of one's ethnicity, culture, and self-identity, right? You sacrifice that for an idea of societal power. Right. The idea of black is the exact opposite of that. Right. And these racial categories were implemented as a social construct. Right. There is no biological categorization that should be implemented in the society based on how someone phenotypically presents. And yet.
So what is your end goal, Liv? So tell me, what is your end goal? Because you want segregation. What does that mean? Okay, you want white people and black people to be separated. What is your end goal?
Yeah, so I've never advocated for segregation.
Yes, you have. What the? Are you serious right now?
So because there's a fundamental difference between segregation and separation. What I believe is that the black community has the 11th highest GDP in the world. And the black community also, the dollar only stays in our community only 6 minutes. So I think that as a community, we should invest in the community, own parts of our community so that we can benefit and repair the damages of white supremacy, like segregation, redlining, and have a more communal uplifting so that that we can have a more equitable outcomes for all people. But if we don't have ownership of our communities, if we don't have white supremacy, these barriers removed.
Wait. So I keep hearing our communities, Liv. I keep hearing you say our communities. We're all American, so every single community is every single person's community.
If you're white.
What are you talking about? You're creating this tribalistic. You're creating this tribalistic thing and saying, "Oh, this is our black community, and no one else can enter into it." But that's what you're doing.
AV. I think that racism impacts all people of color. So I'm a proponent of individuals of all colors.
Except for white people to start their own communities.
Well, yeah, because technically white people don't exist. You're German, European, your ethnicities is what should be the forefront. Who you are as people and the humanity in you is what should be the forefront, not this idea of white.
But when you say black communities, are you talking about German people? Are you talking about Irish people? No, you're not, right?
Yeah, so because whiteness shouldn't exist.
Okay, so I'm asking you again. When you say you want separation, not segregation, even though I think that's the same thing, because you're trying to separate people based upon their ethnicities or their fucking skin color, what is your end goal? What do you consider a black community?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that when we talk about separation, I mean separation and the stopping of the exploitation of the black dollar, specifically within the black community. Right?
What does that mean?
Black people only own 7% of the communities in which we live, right? And so by way of that, we end up paying higher cost of living, have lower access to health care, schools are underfunded. And there is no liberation, right? What I'm a proponent of is
what is your end goal? What is your solution?
Breaking down of these racial barriers so that not only the black community.
You're breaking down racial barriers by creating racial barriers, by creating your own community.
That's not what I'm saying at all.
You're creating an actual barrier of race. Good job.
That's not what I'm saying at all. What
do you mean by black community?
So the black community, just as I would say the same, I'd be a proponent for the Asian community, or any person of color.
So segregation, okay.
No, it's not segregation. It's investment in community.
I keep asking you, explain it to me.
Okay,
when you're talking about
explain it to me then. Is the liberation of all peoples of color, right? From the
what do you mean by that? Liberation. So getting away from white people, the bad whitey. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So no.
Oh yeah.
So AV, there's a difference. There's a difference between someone that phenotypically presents as white and whiteness. There's a difference in white supremacy. There's a difference between somebody that phenotypically presents as a white, has a lighter shade or lighter tone.
Notice how he's not talking about his end goal.
That is my end goal, is the liberation of all people.
So what do you mean by liberation? That means the separation of
AV.
Why you keep trying to save him, Parker?
I just want to ask you a question, man. Can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
Yeah, so say there's discrimination targeted towards gay people, right, in a particular country, right? Is it okay if there is like a say a club in school or something that is meant to be just for gay people? Right, so that they can create a safe space for people who are gay, right, in a place in which is targeting them in a particular way?
I would say that there should be a society where there doesn't need to be that, and everyone should be accepted for who they are. So again, I would say those clubs and everything like that, those little pocket communities, are just a Band-Aid to a larger problem. The larger problem is homophobia, and we have to stop homophobia. We shouldn't hate on someone because they're gay or lesbian or trans. So again, you can create all these little pocket communities, but at the end of the day, it's a bigger problem, homophobia. So he is just creating more racism by trying to separate people based upon race or their ethnicity, when we all need to come together as fucking humans.
Yeah, so we can come together and then also create spaces that can make people feel safe.
Yeah, we can all. Okay. But again, you just said
these are historically disadvantaged. Hold up, AV, I want to clarify. These are historically disadvantaged communities. Okay? We're not saying that white people are getting a fucking place where they can just remove everyone from this, right? Because there's not a historical acts of oppression targeted against people on the basis of them being white.
Okay, but by you saying the gay people are going to a place where they feel safe, which means that's just a Band-Aid to a larger problem. The larger problem is homophobia, and we have to stop homophobia and all come together and say, it doesn't matter who you sleep with.
Why can't we do both?
It doesn't matter.
Why can't we do both?
I mean, why can't... Okay, here's why we can't do both. Because if you are why would they feel unsafe if they're generally accepted in America?
We haven't gotten to that point of broad scale general acceptance, because it is the case that there are biases that exist within white people that are not being addressed. Realistically speaking, they're not being addressed on a large enough scale by other white people. Okay,
but his solution is to separate us based upon our ethnicity,
that's not what
skin color, which means he is creating just more racism and more of a divide when we should be coming together. Liv is the racist here, and I am the true anti-racist here, because Liv, you like to talk about anti-racism, but I'm the true anti-racist, because I see you as a human being, not as a black person. We are all people at the end of the day.
Okay.
Just like we shouldn't be attacking gay people, we shouldn't be attacking anyone based upon their skin color. But you attack white people every day, and people are sick of it, Liv. Because you're
great.
racist.
Can I respond now? All right. So
go
AV,
right ahead.
Yeah. So
Gish Gallop,
AV,
like you always do.
Yeah. So AV, under the thumb of white supremacy in every oppressive system, the patriarchy, white supremacy, and capitalism, Black and indigenous people are harmed the most, right? Our communities under capitalism, our communities under capitalism are disproportionately affected because of the historical and current degradation of our communities, right? I think that when I talk about not segregation, but separation, it means that we maintain the dollars within our community to uplift our communities that have been disproportionately disenfranchised historically, right? I think that we should look to invest in our community specifically because of the degradation that have happened. And I don't even tell this energy for just Black people. I also hold it for the Asian community and our indigenous brothers and sisters as well, because we all have suffered under this hand of white supremacy. And we should look to bring equitable change for all people.
Okay, but again, what is your end goal? So are you saying that we should just separate based purely on like financials? Are you saying that we should separate based upon our skin color and ethnicities? Like, what are you saying?
Yeah. So again, what I'm saying is that specifically there have been systems that have been put into place that have targeted the Black community. And I think that with the Black community, indigenous community, and other people of color that have lived under this thumb of white supremacy, it's important that we compartmentalize and protect these communities from white
financially?
supremacy.
Or are you talking about like a max exodus, like where you take a territory and make it specifically for an ethnicity or a race of people? Like, what are you saying?
No. Okay. So an example of what I'm saying is that we should allow for investment in grants within our educational system, specifically to impoverished schools. I think that we should have access to universal health care for all people. I think that we should make sure that individuals have a right to vote within their communities and prevent gerrymandering so that our representatives and people can be heard within our communities. I think that the exploitation of our overall communities in the workforce is something that should be rectified. I think that because of the disenfranchisement of the housing market, for example, there should be specific grants for Black, indigenous, and people of color to create generational wealth within our communities. And also because of the disenfranchisement of businesses or access to loans for businesses, that there should be equitable practices to uplift Black people within the Black community and other marginalized communities.
Okay,
as well.
You keep saying these broad generalized statements. Reparation.
Parker?
Okay, so
I thought Liv was based there, dude. Like, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, AVA, man, you're trying to characterize his opinion, like, so weird. Like, you're trying to say that he was like arguing that like there should be communities in which are solely isolated where like where like
this
segregate
is literally
people.
what he said.
That's
Liv,
not,
do you think there should be a community where it's strictly just Black people?
So I don't know if you notice, AV, but within the Black community, white people live. So if we invest and here's the thing, right? Economically speaking, right, AV?
He literally just said invest in people who are invest in Black communities. That's all he said, right? And like AV's taking that as like you're arguing for segregation. Like what?
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing for that. I just think that Black communities need to be Black, indigenous, and people of color should be compartmentalized and protected away from white supremacy. And that we should have equitable change within our communities. And thanks everybody for the gifts, by the way. And so that's what I'm proposing.
So money.
No, not just money.
Investment, building up of communities.
Yeah, money. Okay, so give them money. Okay, what else?
It's not just about giving people money. It's about investing particularly to build up communities.
What is investing? Money.
I understand it's money, right? But it is the case that it's money applied in particular ways. It's not just
so you guys are talking about throwing money at the problem.
Appreciate it, Dinosaur. Thank you so much.
But Liv is completely changing his tune in front of all these people, which is fine. I'll let you change your tune.
I'm not changing my tune.
You are changing your tune. You're changing your tune, and now you're just making it all about money and investment, which is what you've not said before.
So AV. So no, I can even look at the patriarchy and a forced heteronormative society and how it's harmful to Black, Indigenous, and femme
it's harmful
people.
to have a family. It's harmful to reproduce. That's harmful.
So no, what I think is that a forced heteronormative society, and when we look at the kyriarchy as a whole and intersectionality, as Parker described, the most degraded people within these marginalized communities will be Black, Indigenous, and femme presenting trans women. Right.
What?
And I think that part is harmful. And I think that Black, Indigenous, and femme presenting women and people should be protected from these systems of oppression and be compartmentalized so that they don't experience harm.
Protect them how? With money or what?
Sure. I would say, for example, it can be legislation passed that protects individuals.
Give an example. Like hate speech legislation? Like throwing people in jail if they say something you don't like?
Yeah, no, I don't think that either.
Then what? Are you saying other than money, what is your solution?
All right. So here, AV, here's an example. When we talk about the patriarchy, right? White men make up 30% of the population and 80% of our government. This is what constitutes a patriarchy. It was geared for Christian white men, right? I think that women and femme presenting people should be equally represented within our society, and that would be an ability to compartmentalize and protect them from harm. I can't speak for that community because I'm not a part of that community.
So you're just talking about equal representation.
But I also think, AV, that community should have the ability to say what they need to protect themselves and should be given it and granted it by society.
Say what they need, like what?
They would have to speak to that community. I was giving an example.
Okay. All right. Well.
Yeah. Under capitalism, for example, we know capitalism functions on scarcity, right? And in 2022, this country's GDP was $23.32 trillion, right? And because it functions on scarcity, it means that if individuals have, some people have not, right? The majority of Americans on average made roughly $35,000 a year. On average, there are 3 people per household. Our GDP, if divided up equally, each household should have received over $200,000. But unfortunately, 87% of our overall GDP is owned by corporations and big business, which disenfranchise the people. I think that is an exploitative system.
Wait, do you mean by GDP? GDP would probably be like 60,000.
Yeah,
not 200,000.
It'd be like 60 or 70,000. It's somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 60.
Yeah, but it's still like when you look at what the Black community pulls in on average is like I think it's 30,000. And that's not equitable for me, especially when corporations are sending people to the moon in oversized dildos. Like, there's no reason we should have homelessness. There's no reason that we should have 25% of children not having enough to eat.
Like, there's no reason we should have funded Ukraine. There's no reason we should have funded Ukraine.
That's a loan, by the way. And actually, the thing is, if we are funding things like Ukraine, right? Well, then it should be the case that we are also doing so for countries around the world in which people are disadvantaged. Where were we when it relates to Yemen?
Exactly.
Where were we when it relates to situations in which impact people of color around the world? Right? It is the case that we're there when it relates to Europe, and we're there when it relates to those types of concerns. But when it relates to other international affairs, we're fucking silent.
Yeah.
And I think that's honestly the most disgusting thing ever, is that there are so many people out there that are willing to give money to Ukraine, but they're not willing to acknowledge it when it relates to other circumstances in which there are genocide.
We should give money to America and make America better and America great again.
I think 2 things can be true at the same time. I think that we can give money to Ukraine, but I also think we can invest in infrastructure in places like Flint.
Could have used that Ukraine money and given it to Black communities like you wanted, Liv.
Wait, the $70 billion that you're referencing is literally 1/4 of our net interest payment on our debt. 1/4. Okay, so if you're why do conservatives hyperfixate on the?
I'm not a conservative.
Money
I'm a moderate.
It's bullshit. Why do you?
How's that? Wait. Why is that bullshit?
Because you're voting Trump, dude. You're not a fucking moderate.
Why would I vote for people who are against America?
Yeah, you're not a moderate. That's like,
I am a moderate.
Moderate where? You're voting for a candidate in which literally is saying the election's been stolen, right, for years with absolutely no sufficient evidence. You think that you're a moderate? You think that you're not fucking you think you're not populist? You think you're not out there in terms of your beliefs?
Oh, I'm definitely
that's how much it's been normalized for people to believe these things.
No, I'm for things like universal. I'm for things like universal health care.
Can I ask you a question, AV?
Sure, you can ask me one of your.
Can you name 3 Republican policies that support poor people?
I don't need to because I'm not a Republican.
Okay. Hey, AV, why should I support Donald Trump, a man that's Donald Trump and the Republican Party?
You don't need to. Wait, Liv. You would never. Liv. You would never, Liv. You would never support Donald Trump because he doesn't fit into your narrative, your victim mentality narrative.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the victim mentality in a second, right? But my question for you is this: is why should I support a candidate in a political party that's endorsed by the Triple K and other white supremacist organizations?
Wait. Just because, so are you saying that he supports the KKK? Because I've heard him multiple times say that he is against
AV
the KKK.
like didn't listen specifically, bro. I can't do it.
Wait.
He said the KKK supports them.
Yeah.
Okay, but does that mean he supports the KKK? Just because bad people support you doesn't make you a bad person.
Okay, so
he's going to ask the question, why does the Triple K, why do they support him?
Okay, why would they support Democrats?
Back then?